The day my husband Harris and I were on our way for a prenatal checkup, we got into a car accident, and I suddenly found myself back in my high school years. I decided to switch schools to meet Harris earlier than planned. To my surprise, my hubby, who's always had my heart, was quite the popular figure in high school. On the way, he was carrying a basketball, soaking up all the attention. I accidentally got in his way. He impatiently said, "Move it." Later, I pushed him aside with a cold expression, "Move it." He was like a puppy, clinging on to me and not letting go. "Please, babe, don't be mad." When I confirmed I'd been sent back to high school, I quickly called my dad. I asked him to get me transferred back to Harris's school in the US. I couldn't wait to see him again. He would be the future CEO of the company and my future husband. Now, he's studying abroad. We didn't cross paths as students. Many years later, at a banquet, we met and hit it off. We got married to the applause and blessings of our friends. Everyone said I had a good life. We were really happy after getting married. He was mature, steady, and successful, treating me like I was his world. But on the day he was driving me to the prenatal checkup, we had that accident. I thought I was done for. But I actually came back to life, and ended up in high school. I remember how Harris protected me with his whole body when that truck came crashing towards us. Now, I was anxious to see him right away. I didn't expect that even after transferring to his school back in the country, I didn't see him for a whole week. Teen Harris was frequently skipping classes. My new desk mate was a chubby girl, and she wasn't too surprised when she heard me asking about Harris. Harris's family was loaded. His dad donated a hefty sum to the school every year. Even the principal would greet him with a smile, and the teachers turned a blind eye to him skipping classes. She patted my shoulder. Girls who like Harris could line up around the field twice. "I hear he messes around a lot. Someone like him isn't from our world, don't think too much about it. It's impossible not to care." When I met Harris in my last life, he was already 30. He was a decisive CEO, steady and calm. I knew he'd had girlfriends before me and I wasn't his first love. But I didn't expect him to have been such a playboy when he was young. His childhood friend Larry once told me, "You guys just met at the right time. Jesse, you have no idea how much Harris loved to play when he was young." But then Harris cut him off coldly. "Can't you keep quiet while eating, Larry?" Larry laughed and shut up. I used to be bothered, but Harris only ever focused on me once we were together. He's well known for being a devoted husband. After a while, I stopped caring about his past. After all, life is about moving forward. There's no point dwelling on unchangeable pasts. Now that I was back in high school, hearing how wild he was with numerous rumored girlfriends, I couldn't stay still. How could I let Harris mess around with his fiancée here? I patiently gathered info about the rumors around him. Listening to them made me clench my fists. How could 30-year-old Harris be so calm and self-controlled when teenage Harris was so rebellious? He fought, skipped classes, street raced, and did everything wrong. And now, I couldn't even get a glimpse of him. In the second week after my transfer, Harris finally showed up in school. Knowing he had a basketball game today, I specially bought some water for him, but the playground was packed when I got there. On the court, the boy in the blue jersey was fresh and full of spirit. With the last ball decisively into the hoop, the crowd of girls screamed. He brushed his sweaty bangs away from his forehead. I watched him from afar grabbing a bottle of water a girl handed and drinking it casually. As his future wife, it would be a lie to say I wasn't jealous. I quietly clenched my fists. But being short, holding the water bottle while getting jostled by the crowd, I couldn't get to the front. I shouted his name, Harris. My voice was quickly drowned in the noise. By the time it quieted down, he was already gone while I was still stuck in the crowd. Returning to class, I was frustrated. My desk mate laughed, "It's just water. Who knows, they might be feeding each other mouth to mouth in private." With so many beauties around Harris, only a saint could resist, right? Furious, I said, he better not dare. If he does, I'll divorce him. My desk mate chuckled, aha. You haven't even married him yet, where's the divorce gonna come from? Jesse, with a face like yours, stop focusing solely on Harris. Lots of guys in the class next door are interested in you. Every time Harris showed up at school, he was surrounded by his crew. It was hard for me to get close to him. I was beginning to understand what his friends meant. You met Harris at the right time. If I didn't have my past memories, meeting Harris at the same school wouldn't lead to sparks, let alone romance. Too many girls here wanted to spark something with him. I sighed, wondering how to catch my future husband who's too popular in high school. Should I just wait for our lives to follow their original path, ending up together in a few years? No way. Just the thought of him being a player now makes me want to punch him. At recess, I went to the store with my desk mate Betty. I was waiting at the entrance. Sudden chaos erupted around me. Turning around, I saw Harris leading a group approaching the store. Dressed in a black jacket, he reminded me of a leader among the uniformed students, standing out against the crowd. His young face held an alluring sharpness, something never seen compared to the shrewd executive he'd become. Just as he was about to pass by me, I reached out and stopped him. He was chatting with his buddies, barely sparing me a glance. Move. I widened my eyes. Can't believe he said move to me. Never had he raised his voice when we were together. All he ever did was sweet talk me. When he was ever upset with me, it was only beneath the sheets. Honey, don't cry, I'll be gentler, he'd comfort, all kisses and cuddles, though his strength never really eased. Sadly, this Harris wasn't my husband yet. He had no idea who I was. When I didn't budge, impatience crossed his eyes. Can't understand human? His buddy teased. How many does this make today? Every time Harris shows up, girls swarm him. I'm so jealous. Though this girl's cute, with those big doe eyes, shame she's after Harris. See what heartbreak comes. I stared at him, dumbfounded. In my past life, Harris cherished me for so long. Now reborn, I rushed back home to transfer to his school. I waited for so long to finally see him again. But he talked to me so impatiently. And gave me such a cold, fierce look. I know he isn't the 30-year-old Harris. But being spoiled by him before, I can't handle the slightest grievance. Now, emotions welled up inside me, and I couldn't hold back. I stood in front of him, my voice steady yet fearless. Harris, how about you say that again? The people around us sucked in a breath. He frowned, as if trying to remember who had the guts to talk to him like that. Betty came out of the supermarket, saw the scene, and quickly pulled me away. She whispered as we walked. Jesse, what are you doing? Harris is handsome but has a nasty temper. Even girls don't end well angering him. The next day, Harris was at school again. I didn't want to keep getting the cold shoulder anymore. But memories of the past life accident flashed in my mind, with Harris instinctively protecting me, bleeding all over. Never mind, it's just his immaturity now. No need to fuss over the childish him. Better to raise this rebellious teen into a devoted husband myself. If I could make the 30-year-old Harris fall for me, I can surely win over the teenage Harris. But I didn't expect the next time I'd see him would be in a secluded grove. Underneath a tree, a girl was on tiptoes, about to kiss him. So should I stop my future husband from kissing another girl? Obviously, yes. But before I could get there, Harris nonchalantly shoved her away. The girl whined, all hurt. I'm your girlfriend, why can't I kiss you? I'm a germaphobe. Are you saying I'm dirty? What else? The girl ran off crying. I felt a bit awkward and stepped back, hiding behind the tree again. I know Harris is a neat freak. After marriage, he kept our house spotless, even ironed all my clothes until they were wrinkle-free. Yet, he never minded finishing my leftovers. And he was never restrained with affection. Seeing them not kiss, I sighed in relief. I was thinking about how to approach him when Harris casually leaned against a tree, playing with a lighter he pulled from his pocket. "How long are you gonna keep staring?" I looked around, saw no one else. Was he talking to me? Thinking it over, I stepped out, but barely moved a step before tripping over something and falling. A sharp branch scraped my knee, making me inhale sharply in pain. "Can't even walk straight and you're eavesdropping?" A voice came from above me. Harris had quietly walked over, staring at me, his eyes finally landing on my scraped knee. Then, he suddenly lifted me up. I gasped, "You? What, aren't you trying to get my attention by showing up here?" No, why does teenage Harris talk like a TV drama hero? He seemed to think I'd struggle out of his arms or avoid looking at him after that comment. But I just comfortably slung my arms around his neck instead. Getting your attention sure is costly. His face was unreadable, but he didn't let go. "No, I have a girlfriend and you still come around. This how you treat others too?" I answered honestly, "I'm only like this with my husband." He stumbled a bit, almost dropping me. "Who's your husband? Don't you know how to be shy?" He frowned at me, a trace of blush and annoyance flickering in his rebellious eyes. I nestled in his arms, ignoring his increasingly stiff posture. "It's only a matter of time. Just take me to the nurse's office, my leg hurts, and next class is PE." He said nothing to my familiarity. But he did carry me to the nurse's. Most people were in class, it was just the rustling leaves and my heartbeat in my ears. I poked his chest. "Can you slow that heartbeat down? It's kinda loud." "Shut up." He gritted his teeth. I chuckled. So my husband does get embarrassed easily. The 30-year-old Harris, long past this awkward phase, would always leave me blushing instead. Now I finally had the chance to indulge. After dropping me at the nurse's, Harris left. The sunlight glinted off his retreating figure, with his crimson ears suggesting a hasty escape. I realized, Harris wasn't as wild as I'd thought. "Jessie, notice how much Harris is coming to school lately?" Betty counted on her fingers, 5 days this week. That never happened before. Maybe he wants to study hard now. I looked outside the window. Down below, the boy slung his backpack over one shoulder and entered the school as the bell rang. Sensing something, he looked up, meeting my gaze from the 3rd floor. I smiled at him. He acted like he didn't see me, turning away and walking on. Still, during break time, he cornered me in a quiet hallway. "Him, how many others have you told you like them?" I blinked, "Just you." He scoffed, pulling out a few love letters from his pocket. "Can't even spell my name right on these." I did that on purpose. How else could I stand out among all the girls sending him love letters? He had too many admirers, his buddies were the ones reading them all. I wrote them like this to ensure I'd catch his attention fast. Harris had no idea of my real intent. His face was stern, lips pressed into a tight line. "No words?" "A bit guilty?" I feigned innocence. "You're jealous?" "Him, I have a girlfriend, why'd I be jealous?" I was taken aback. "You still haven't broken up with her?" His lips curved, as if finding a way to faze me now, without the previous anger. Towering over me, "Why break up? Oh, you want me to switch to you?" I got mad. "Why not break up already? Are you waiting for New Year's? You're really ticking off your future wife with your actions right now." "Him, how do you know she's not my future wife?" "Fine, fine. Then go be with her." This time he really ticked me off. I shoved him away and ran off. For a whole week, I didn't try to approach Harris. Yet I kept running into him at school. He was still the center of attention, surrounded by people. But every time, he'd intentionally brush past me. Like really brushing shoulders. Does he have to keep bumping into me? Even if it wasn't hard, just a light touch. I didn't expect that after pausing my pursuit of Harris, someone else would confess to me. The one who asked me out was a tall, skinny guy from the class next door. When he smiled, you could see his little fangs. "Jesse, do you remember? You gave me water on the court once, and from that day, I started liking you." I was kind of confused. When did I ever give water to another guy? After thinking hard for a minute, I remembered. It was the first time I watched Harris play. I bought water, but he had already left, so I just handed it to a sweaty player nearby. Little did I know, I'd captured someone else's heart. Embarrassed, I said, "Oh, it was you." He laughed brightly. "I knew you remembered me. Thanks for that day. You're a really cute girl. Could you be my girlfriend?" I replied, "Thanks for liking me, but..." Before I could finish, I was suddenly pulled into a fresh, cool embrace from behind. "She has a boyfriend." Caught in Harris's arms, I hadn't processed what was happening. The guy was surprised to see Harris there too. He frowned when he saw Harris holding me. "Let her go. Jessie is a great girl, not like your other girlfriends. Don't bully her." Harris shot back with a cold glare, which I saw me bullying her. "Then let her go. Is there a problem with holding my girlfriend?" The guy complained. I asked around. "She doesn't have a boyfriend." I nodded. "That's true, I don't." Harris looked down at me, his gaze intense. Then suddenly, he smiled. That smile made me feel uneasy. I stood straight and told the guy, "It's true I don't have a boyfriend, and I'm not looking for one right now. Thanks, but sorry." After he walked away sadly, I turned to Harris, leaning against a tree. "Why haven't you left yet?" He stared at me intently and said casually, "Did you give him water?" "Just once. It was supposed to be for you, but you're too popular. You didn't need my bottle." I thought this sarcastically. "Why did you give him water?" I made up a reason. "He played well." Harris sneered. "Really? He's always losing to me." As he said this, he lifted his chin slightly, looking smug. He reminded me a lot of a little cat we had after getting married. Every time it wanted praise, it would lift its head, looking all proud and cute. I sighed. Maybe he just didn't have a good day. His proud expression instantly fell. "Don't defend him." Using his own words against him, I said, "Are we that close?" He pressed his lips together, sunlight filtering through the trees, casting shadows in his eyes that reflected me. After a moment, he spoke. All right, what? Be my girlfriend." "Nope." His lips tightened more, not expecting I'd say that. I walked up to him. It meant looking up because he was so tall, and patted his shoulder. "What I said wasn't just for that guy, it was for you too. I've thought it over. I just want to focus on studying for now. In college, there'll be plenty of handsome guys." He scoffed, acting like that. "You think I'd let you off so easy? You used to call me hubby, and your affection was that fleeting?" His tone was calm but felt icy. "I call it seeing the light. You're always MIA with girls around you. We're just from different worlds. It wouldn't work." He instinctively replied, "How do you know that?" Then he paused, realizing what he'd said. Harris started skipping school again, caught up in fighting and clubbing. Betty sighed. I thought the young master had changed. Turns out it was just temporary. I was buried in my papers, focused on a math problem. "Why aren't you interested in Harris anymore?" "Anyway, it's good. With his background, he'd need someone from the same status, like a business marriage." I just smiled. As if I wouldn't know if Harris had a business marriage lined up. With his rebellious nature, unless forced, he'd never go through with it. That's why he stayed single till 30. Looking out the window, I noted Harris hadn't been at school for a week. But I wasn't worried. He wasn't living it up like people thought. That day after school, I walked in the dimming light, the cool evening breeze making me rub my hands for warmth. Some thugs showed up at the alley entrance. I backed away as they blocked me. Hey there, got any spare change for us? Looking so fine, got a boyfriend? Wanna hang with us? This cute face begs for a kiss. Before he finished, a punch landed, knocking him down. Who hit me? It was me. Harris's voice was icy. I was surprised at him suddenly appearing in front of me. Harris, you. Just passing by. The thugs gathered, furious. You hit me? You ain't leaving today. Harris and the 5 guys started brawling. He took them on, 5 against 1. His fierceness scared them off eventually. With a curse, they fled. Harris wasn't unscathed either. Bruised at the corner of his mouth, he tried to leave. I rushed to support him. You okay? I wanted to take him to a nearby hospital. He refused. So I got us to a pharmacy, buying some band-aids. I carefully placed one on his wound, and he winced. I immediately blew on it. Does it hurt? He looked at my reddening eyes, licked his lips. Not bad. I said sternly, next time, don't fight so hard. Running is fine too. This? I can take 10 of them, no big deal. He winced. I withdrew my hand lightly. Did you hear me? The shopkeeper nearby chuckled. Your girlfriend is really worried about you. Harris turned away, not saying a word for once. After leaving the pharmacy, I wanted to show my concern, so I took him to get some hot Odin. He acted like he didn't want it, but still followed me. Inside, away from the chill, the warm light was comforting. Watching him eat in small bites because of his mouth wound, I couldn't help but smile. Loudly, I bit into a big piece of octopus ball. So good. Childish, he said. Cheeks puffed, he poked at them as if they were a new toy. I slapped his hand away. Childish. Though it was for him, I ate most of it myself. Finished eating, he coolly put on his hat and left. I burped. I can't help but feel that Harris is just a stubborn kid. He's got that rebellious teenage flair, bold and brazen. Yet there's something adorable about him that's hard to describe. September 15th is Harris's birthday. Since we got together, every year on this day, he takes me to see the sea. We watch the ocean through the big windows. I sip wine. He starts tasting me. Every time, the next day, I wouldn't wake up until noon or later. He'd hold me and take me to eat. Thinking about those out-of-place scenes, it feels like they were just yesterday. Now, being back in high school, it's much easier. On this day, his rich, playboy friends threw him a birthday bash with lots of pretty girls from school, a few school beauties included. Betty said, Jesse, you're pretty too. How come you weren't invited? They're blind. Wonder who'll be lucky enough to become his girlfriend this time. I was doodling on my scrap paper. Betty leaned over to look. I sketched a turtle, with a note, Harris, live long and prosper. Harris showed up at school that day too. After gym class, I saw him coming down the hallway. I hurried to call out to him. Harris. He stopped. What's up? Is it your birthday today? He raised his brow. Yeah. I got a birthday gift for you, but it'll be ready in a few days. What did you get me? The evening breeze blew my hair as I grinned, not telling yet, but you'll definitely like it. He looked away like he saw something too bright and said, you better impress me. Not going out to eat with them? I was surprised Harris skipped the party for him after school. Didn't you invite me? When did I invite him? You stopped me, didn't you want some alone time? I get it. Does he have a wild imagination or what? He added, lazily, the party would just be drinking and gaming, boring. I thought for a moment, I know a place you'd like. Where? Did you bring your ID? An ID? He hesitated, something seemed to dawn on him and his ears turned red. Yeah, I did. So we went to the amusement park. Harris paused at the entrance. Isn't this for kids? There are lots of rides inside, and you can get discounts with an ID, plus a free plus high. He gave me a look but didn't say anything before I led him to some thrilling rides. At first, he wasn't interested, but then he got into it. Watching him loosen up made me happy, too. He once told me, back when he was 30, that his parents were too busy working and never took him to amusement parks. "Are you having fun?" I asked. He arched a brow, our reflections in his eyes, more than I expected. I felt proud. It's not easy to get a compliment from this young master. As night fell, we sat on the Ferris wheel, looking down at the lively scene below, all glowing like scattered stars. Sitting next to Harris, I remembered how I loved coming to amusement parks for the Ferris wheel in my past life, though I never did the thrilling rides. I sure got my fill today. Being young is great. I leaned on Harris's shoulder without thinking. His breathing quickened, reminding me that this Harris isn't my husband yet. We weren't married. I was about to pull away when he gently held me in place. "Don't move," he said softly, voice husky. The atmosphere between us became charged and intimate. In our little bubble, each other's breathing was so clear. "Jessie," he called my name. "I want to date you." I didn't expect Harris was serious. He started pursuing me. Every day he bought me snacks. Betty was amazed. "Jessie, what did you do? Harris got you all these snacks." Do guys at this age chase girls so openly? When 30-year-old Harris pursued me, he was much subtler. He'd find ways to join meals at my place until he took over the kitchen, crafting meals that rivaled 5-star hotels. I fell hard for his cooking, couldn't get enough. That led to us dating, moving in together, eventually marrying. He was like a cunning wolf, leading his prey into his den back then. This young Harris clearly didn't grasp the concept of taking things slow. I happily accepted his snacks and shared them with Betty. Betty was astonished. "Wow, never thought I'd taste Harris's snacks. Jessie, you're amazing." We'd munch on chips after classes, and I even gained some weight. I told Harris to stop. I really couldn't finish all the snacks. Next thing I knew, someone told him something, and he began sending sparkly hair clips and bracelets instead. Looking at the collection of shiny trinkets in my desk drawer, I couldn't help but laugh. He was making it so public, most of the school knew. No one expected Harris to go for the new transfer student. She seemed so sweet. Was he changing his type? It was always the mature ones before. Wonder how long this will last. They said Harris was the one chasing her. Normally, girls threw themselves at him. This was a first. Maybe she's stringing him along with that hard-to-get game. Everyone thought his crush would blow over quickly. But surprise, surprise. 2 weeks went by, and Harris seemed to be getting more and more hooked. On the basketball court, he effortlessly nailed a 3-pointer at the buzzer. The crowd cheered. Lots of girls offered him water, but unlike before, he didn't grab a random bottle from someone. Instead, he scanned the crowd for me. When he didn't see me, his face darkened. But when I hurried over, he brightened up immediately. "I thought you weren't coming." I caught my breath. Our teacher ran late. Dummy. He took the bottle from my hand. "Next time, don't rush." "I was worried you'd think I didn't show," I panted. He scoffed, but his voice was light. He twisted off the cap and held it to me. "Your face is all red from running, drink up." I couldn't help but feel warm inside seeing him sweat-soaked, yet offering me the water first. Under his watchful eyes, I took a sip and handed it back. He naturally took it, taking a few swigs himself. Those moves with his Adam's apple were just so sexy. Water dripped down my Adam's apple and into my jersey. A girl nearby giggled with her hand over her mouth. He drank straight from that bottle. They looked so sweet together. That's when I realized, Harris had just chugged from the same bottle I drank. Before, any juice I couldn't finish, I'd pass to him. I got used to it. Now that someone pointed it out, maybe it's just the hormones at this age, but despite being like an old married couple, I felt a bit shy. My heart started racing. I knew Harris was staking his claim. Especially after a guy who once confessed to me. Harris waved the bottle in his face, grinning. The guy looked not pleased. If Harris had a tail, it would definitely be up in the air. But I can't let him stay smug for too long. I often took him to the school study room. He's not a fan of studying. I watched him, making sure he kept good posture while studying. The school's notorious head honcho, acting so compliant in front of me. He'd sit up straight when I told him to. Look at the book, I pointed at. Although, it didn't last long before he slouched back, playing with my hair. He even lowered his head, taking a whiff. What shampoo do you use? Smells so good. Focus. He loved teasing me, but whenever I was about to get mad, he'd straighten up just in time. Sometimes after exhausting study sessions, he'd take me for a ride on his pricey motorcycle. I had only sat in Harris's Maybach when he was 30. This was my first time on his cool motorcycle from his teenage years. It felt totally different. The evening breeze on my face eased my mind. The accident from my past life often haunted my dreams. Sometimes I couldn't help but wonder if this was all a dream. How else could I be lucky enough to relive and meet teenage Harris? What are you thinking about? The wind was loud, but I could hear his voice through the helmet, like a thread bringing me back from the haze. Loudly I replied, thinking how good you are at riding. I heard him laugh, chest shaking with pride and freedom. But as I watched the road ahead, all I could think was about his smirk and bright eyes under the helmet. Just before finals, Lily, the school's renowned beauty, approached me unexpectedly. She was really pretty, tall, with an air of elegance. The first time she saw me, she looked me over, eyes full of disdain. I checked myself out, is my outfit dirty? Her scorn deepened, such a shabby look. How could Harris like you? Ah, I see. She's here because of Harris. Seeing me silent, thinking she hit a nerve, she smirked. Harris is an only child. He's going to inherit a massive family business. His family will definitely find him a girl from a similar background. So, you want to say that girl is you? Our families have been working together for a long time. It's almost certain that I'll marry Harris. Watching her certainty made me want to laugh. She looked displeased. What's with that face? Really think you can go from rags to riches like that? Rags? I stepped closer. Well, I should tell you something. My family isn't as poor as you think. You see that new school building going up over there? My dad donated it. She sneered. Does Harris know you're such a liar? I shrugged. If you don't believe it, ask the principal. Find out how I transferred here without testing, straight into the honors class. On transfer day, my dad contacted the school's principal to make sure I was taken care of and casually donated a building. As for my plain clothes, maybe I wasn't wearing market popular brands like she assumed. All my life, my clothes have been custom made. Seeing my calm demeanor, clearly not bluffing, Lily hesitated. No way. Feel free to check. By the way, that necklace around your neck is from the Twinkle series, right? The chief designer's my cousin. I can call him to send you a real one, so you don't keep wearing fakes. Her face turned pale, disbelief written all over her. You. I smiled at her and walked away. Students nearby heard our conversation. By the next day, my real background had spread through the school. What was seen as an ordinary transfer student catching the eye of a rich kid turned out to be a massively wealthy heiress. Betty was shocked. Jessie, what else have you been hiding from me? I've been desk mates with a rich, gorgeous girl this whole time. Does your family live in a mansion bigger than the gym? Not that exaggerated. As for my background, Harris wasn't too surprised. He'd secretly looked into it before. He asked why I suddenly came back to school. I came back just for you. Don't try to fool me. Really? I'm your future wife, wanted to meet you earlier, keep you out of trouble. Though he looked doubtful, his ears turned red, and he took my hand. You can only say things like that to me, he whispered, I'll definitely marry you in the future. After finals, we decided to study abroad together. My dad kept calling, urging me to return, missing me terribly. I told him over the phone I'd be bringing home a son-in-law. He was shocked. What? I understood the feelings of a dad. When I married Harris in my past life, my dad cried like a baby. This time, I thought to give him a heads up. What I didn't expect was, just before returning, I was kidnapped. Not that they specifically targeted me. The kidnappers were after another heiress, and I just happened to be there. To avoid exposure, they took me, too. What kind of luck is that? But Harris noticed early. When I woke up in the van, I heard the kidnappers cussing in the front seat. A biker kept tailing them relentlessly. I knew it was Harris. How's Harris's bike keeping up with us? Weren't we supposed to nab Ms. Lily? The kidnappers turned to the girl they randomly grabbed, me. As if it were my fault. Eventually, Lily's family caught on too and deployed help. The kidnappers' vehicle got forced to a stop by several cars. Cornered, they revealed they had bombs. The moment before the explosion, Harris rushed to shield me just like in my past life. Then a deafening blast. My ears rang for ages. The person on top of me was covered in blood. He rasped, "Does it hurt?" The overwhelming sadness woke me up. With a clean white ceiling above, I realized I was in a hospital. Harris. A nurse rushed in. "Mr. Harris has pulled through, ma'am." "Don't worry, he's okay." "Mr. Harris?" "Ma'am?" Did I really go back to being 30? Memories flooded back, and I remembered that after the car accident, both Harris and I were taken to the hospital. Thanks to Harris protecting me, I wasn't hurt much, I was just in a coma. Harris, on the other hand, had severe injuries and went into surgery. Even though the doctors said he was out of danger, I was still really scared. Walking into the hospital room, he just happened to open his eyes. He looked at me, wrapped in bandages, and seemed confused. "Who are you?" "No way, why does life keep giving me these shocks?" I thought I had returned to high school, but it turned out to be a dream. And now, my husband has amnesia. I grimaced, trying to comfort myself that at least he was alive. The next second, he started laughing. "Wife, I'm fine." He was faking it. I stared at him, wanting to hit him, but held back because he was injured. He lifted his uninjured arm and hooked it onto mine. "Does it hurt?" That question instantly reminded me of things from the dream. My eyes reddened, and he panicked. "Where does it hurt?" "No, I'm not uncomfortable." I told him about my dream, especially his rebellious antics in high school. He laughed and said, "I know." I was surprised. "You dreamed it too?" "Yeah, but not recently. It was when I was in high school. I had this dream. But you weren't in my life at that time. I didn't know you were abroad and couldn't find you." He slowly said, "But I believed you existed. Later, at that party, I finally met you. You waited for me for 12 years? 12 years, 3 months, and 4 days. I was momentarily stunned. So it wasn't love at first sight for me, it was because you met me in the dream that you liked me. He confirmed, it was love at first sight. The first moment I saw you in the dream, I fell in love with you. But back then, I was too proud to admit it. You knew it too. We cuddled for a bit, and I felt curious. Why did we have such dreams? He said, I once asked at a temple, and the master said we were destined in our past lives, and this life too. Don't joke with me. Next time something dangerous happens, don't play hero. Protecting my wife is the right thing to do. He smiled, my wife is a gift from the heavens. 30-year-old Harris sure knows how to charm. I laughed and hooked my finger around his outstretched hand. You're a gift from the heavens too. I've seen the passionate you as a young man, and the mature, steady you now. But no matter which you make me feel like I can happily and joyfully spend the rest of my life.